Eddie Matz, ESPN senior writer at ESPN.com, has your complete guide to Bryce Harper's homecoming. How will Bryce be treated when he returns? I don't know, Eddie, that the Nationals have ever had this happen before. We couldn't think of a guy that played for the Nationals that left and came back that's even close to Bryce Harper. Is there a guy that we're missing? Because I can't. We could not think of one guy that would make them have been in this position before.
So a guy that played for the Nats, went away, came back. I mean, certainly they've had guys do that, right? Daniel Murphy got traded to the Cubs last year, came back. Wilson Ramos left via free agency. He was pretty beloved, went to Tampa Bay, came back. But it's different. But neither of those guys were the franchise face. Neither of them spent 7 years with the Nationals. Neither of them are Bryce Harper. Nobody's Bryce Harper. There's just one of him. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. But, for what it's worth, in his press conference earlier today, he was obviously asked what he expects from the crowd. And he said, look, I get it. It's sports. I'm going to get both. I'm going to get boos. I'm going to get cheers. And wherever I go as a visiting player, I get boos. That's part of the package. So he's a big boy. He gets it.
Yeah, no, I mean, more so it seems like, and this is one of the questions, if you cover Harper over the 7 years, his relationship with the Washington fans, did he have this magnetic relationship with them? Because it seems like already his relationship with the Philly fans seems to be so different than it was in Washington, unless we're wrong about that.
Well, how do you view his relationship with the Philly fans so far?
It just seems like a guy who was released, I could be myself again, or not again. And it seems like he almost seemed like I don't know, a little stiff maybe when he was in Washington. Here he's bowing down, pumping fists. It seems like every other inning he's having some sort of connection with the fan base.
Yeah, no, he definitely did. That's a good point. He definitely did seem stiff towards the end of his tenure here. But I think there's a lot of factors that played into that. One of them, and that are playing into what you're seeing from him now in Philly. One of them is that things have always been kind of corporate here ever since I've been covering the team. I started covering him in 2015. And, I live in Baltimore, so I see a lot of the Nationals. I see a lot of the Orioles. And before the Orioles took a nosedive, their clubhouse was polar opposite of the Nationals. It was lively, and guys were always doing stuff, messing around, playing games. Nationals didn't really operate like that, and part of that just has to do with kind of the top-down, trickle-down, monkey see, monkey do thing. I think you had a lot of veterans here who kind of showed Bryce by example a certain way to handle things, and that's just kind of the way things were done. But I also think, and I'm not in Philly right now, although I lived 8 years in Philly, so I know the town pretty well. I think that what you're getting from Bryce is typical of what you get from any athlete when they make this kind of move, which is very much kind of like honeymoon behavior.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that it won't. It's not to say that it won't continue. But I remember when Daniel Murphy signed with the Nationals a couple of years ago. His initial press conference, I was like, "Man, this guy's great. He's going to be awesome with the media. This is just fantastic." And he's a good dude. But the way he acted in that press conference, it was completely different from the way he was during his time here.
Now,
so I think
when you saw Bryce press, now it was this press conference sitting on the dugout down in Clearwater. I mean, it was a little odd, but people were very impressed. Did you? I don't know if you saw the whole thing or if you watched it. You were like, that's a different side of Bryce.
Yeah, I watched it on TV, and look, Bryce is a brilliant self-promoter. Say what you want about all the other parts of his being. He's really good at marketing himself. Always has been. Very smart in that way. We saw that with posting the picture in front of the Ben Franklin Bridge with the baby announcement. That's no accident that happened right now before he comes to D.C., right? I think if you do the math, he said his wife, they knew she was pregnant in November, so they easily could have announced that prior to now, but I think he wants to control the narrative, and he's always been really good at doing that. So what you saw in Clearwater is Bryce doing that. When he wants to turn it on, he's as good at anybody at doing that, whether it's wearing the Let's Make Baseball Fun Again hat or every now and then he comes out with a gold nugget that people in the media are like, oh, that's great. And so I think that's what you saw in Clearwater. And, he needs to do that, right? Because it's a tough sell because the people in Philly I'm thinking they're probably like, well, if you wanted to be with us, why'd you wait until March 2nd to sign, right? So he knows he's got an uphill battle there, and he's got Scott Boras, who's very good at what he does, and all these PR people. And so I think he's he's controlling the message. He's good at that.
There was some of that, like, okay, what took so long? And then I think he won the people over. And then, of course, opening day, he runs out to right field. He takes a bow. I mean, he has him in the palm of his hands, pretty much. What do you think it will look like? I mean, is there a sellout there tonight? I mean, do you think it's going to be this rowdy place?
Definitely not a sellout. Here, look, it's Monday night. Is it Monday, Tuesday? I lost track of the days. It's
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday night in April. The forecast is supposed to dip into the 30s. It's raining.
Yeah.
So even under normal circumstances, that's probably like 19,000, 20,000 if it's just like a regular April 2nd game. Because it's Harper in town facing, by the way, Max Scherzer, which it doesn't get any better than that. I think you probably would see something closer to like 30,000 maybe instead of 20,000.
Okay.
But we might not even see that because of the weather. Right now it's raining. But I think the crowd will be those who are here on time, which is in D.C. It doesn't happen a lot. I think they'll be pretty amped up. I think you're going to get a lot of boos. I think you're going to get a lot of cheers. You're going to get a lot of both.
Eddie Matz covers the Washington Nationals in ESPN. Let me get you. So what happened here? Like the way that this report kind of came out that, he was almost like got this insulting offer. It's almost as if he was like hopeful that the Nationals would have stepped up to the plate. And when he saw that they didn't want to, he was almost like, wow, like they don't really appreciate me.
So, yeah, I think that's the message that he wants out there. I'm a cynic. I'm definitely a cynic. But I think, of course, he's going to say that, right? Like when we first heard back in October, I think that an offer had been made. That was good for everybody. It was good for the Nationals because if he leaves, they at least look like they made an offer. It was good for Harper and Boris because it set some sort of floor on his market. And now, just as he's about to come back to D.C., like a day before, we read in the Washington Post that all these sympathetic comments from him, I think he's telling, again, he's controlling the narrative the way that he wants to control it, which is that as he's about to come back into D.C. and we're going to say this is his legacy, here's how the fans are going to react, he's trying to make himself look as sympathetic as possible. And maybe that's the truth. Maybe it's exactly how he said it. Or maybe he never intended to sign with the Nationals in the first place, and he just kind of laughed at the offer, regardless of what the number was going to be. Well, I suppose if it was big enough, he wouldn't have laughed at it. But I think he wants it to look like he wanted to be here because that's what benefits him, I think, right? That's my take anyway.
Yeah, no, and it's a perfectly good explanation that, the Nationals make this offer, whatever, $300 million, or I guess it was reported 12 years, 250. Who knows what it really was, but a lot of deferred money. And at the end, he's like, oh, maybe I should start looking elsewhere here. And he ends up, because he still took his good old time landing in Philly here. But did the Nationals feel at some point like, okay, it's time to just move on and start over, and that we still, because a lot of people still think that they're the best team in the division even without him and him staying in the division?
Yeah, so I think from Harper's standpoint, once he was never not going to test free agency because he got that far. I can't imagine a number. The number would have had to be so big, 400, 500. I don't know what that number was, but I can't imagine a number that would have prevented him from testing free agency from his perspective. From the Nationals' perspective, I think that they would have liked to have had him back at their price. He's a good baseball player. He's great from a marketing standpoint. But that price was going to be, I think it was always going to be more than they were willing to pay. And I think that they know that they can be a good baseball team without him. Juan Soto almost won Rookie of the Year last year. He's got the look of a future Hall of Famer. So he will anchor that outfield. Victor Robles is one of the top prospects in baseball. He is a Rookie of the Year front runner this year. And then Adam Eaton slides into right field, where quite honestly, Harper was really bad last year defensively. He was bad. He was not good. And maybe he was just trying to protect himself because he didn't want to get hurt. But whatever the reason, he was below average as a defender and by a pretty good bit. And Adam Eaton, the last time he played right field full time in 2016, he was like one of the best in the majors. So the outfield is going to be fine. The team is going to be fine. They knew they had other needs. They spent $140 million on Pat Corbin, which if they spend money on Harper, they can't do that.
Right.
They made a bunch of other moves. They got Brian Dozier. They got Kurt Suzuki and Jan Gomes and Trevor Rosenthal and Kyer Bearclaw and Anibal Sanchez. That's a lot of moves to make and a lot of money spent that if you plunk it all down on Harper, you're not able to do those things.
Yeah, it seems like, the Nationals kind of focused. They upgraded the pitching while the Phillies upgraded the offense. These two teams, you get to see them 18 times. It should be a lot of fun. There should be a lot of buzz when they play. Eddie Matz covers the Nats. He's got your complete guide to Bryce Harper's homecoming, which could be rained out tonight, by the way. But it's great to have this 3-game set right. I mean, the second series of the year for both of these teams. It should really, kind of set the tone for what we should see for the next 15 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's as good as the drama gets, right? The scheduling gods absolutely crushed this because they didn't make us wait for it. It's boom right out of the gate. And not only that, it's Scherzer against Harper in the first game. So what more could you ask for?
And it helps, Eddie, that he has gotten off to a start where, I mean, the 2 home runs he hit have been titanic blasts. So right off the bat, he's got so much buzz entering this series.
Yeah, well, he's always been great in April. He's great on opening day. He's great in April. He's a monster in April, and then he usually cools off a little bit. But the hot start is no surprise. He loves the big moment, and this, opening day, the first series, big moment. Tonight, big moment. I hope the game goes. I think it will go. It might get delayed a little bit.
Yep.
But Scherzer's not going to back down, which means he's going to come right at him, and that's going to be great because Harper's going to be swinging from his heels.
So in like his 7 years, he's the number 1 pick. He's kind of like the LeBron of baseball. He's on Sports Illustrated. Would you reflect back and say he put Washington Nationals baseball kind of on a different level? I mean, did he live up to LeBron won his championship? He lived up to it for Cleveland. Did Bryce do that for the Nationals?
There's no question he put them on a different level. Not him alone, but I think when he drafted Steven Strasburg, which was the year before Harper, I believe, and then they drafted Harper the following year. Those 2 things were huge in making baseball a thing in D.C., right? They moved here from Montreal in 2005, but for those first 5-6 years, nobody gave a crap.
Yeah.
Those 2 guys put them on the map along with Jason Worth. I'd be doing him an injustice if I don't mention him. That huge contract that he signed, you guys know him well from his days in Philly.
Sure.
He was a huge part of changing the mindset and changing the culture around here. So Bryce is a big part of that, along with those 2 guys. He didn't lead them to a championship. They didn't even win a playoff series.
Crazy.
While he was here in 4 tries, and it's not like it was in spite of great production from him. He was fine in the postseason. I think he's a .211 career hitter in the postseason. Hit a few home runs, but he certainly wasn't at his very best.
That Strasburg decision will haunt them forever.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. So I don't think you can fully make the LeBron comparison just because of the lack of postseason success, and especially if they go and win without him. The narrative, the ending is, the verdict remains to be seen because it kind of depends on what the Nationals do post-Bryce.
Eddie Matz, ESPN senior writer. Bryce is back. He has a complete rundown of the entire appearance for Bryce. Check it out at ESPN.com. It's a great read as you get ready for the game, and you might have some extra time to read it because it looks like there's going to be a rain delay as the Phillies get ready to take on the Nationals. An early season NL East tilt. Bryce is back in D.C. Eddie, appreciate the time, pal.
You bet, Mike. Take care.